You can add a ton of speed and efficiency to your real estate business with technology solutions, obviously, but you need to make them work together. The good news is there are low-code and no-code ways to do this. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to be a software developer. You can do this on your own. And to lower that barrier, to welcome you into this conversation, to get specific tool recommendations, I have a great Techtember episode right now for you with Lisa-Oahn. Lisa does transaction coordination in multiple states for clients of Whoozy.ai. She does follow-up boss consulting, and she does operations coaching for a handful of teams. In this conversation, of course, she takes us deep into transaction coordination, sharing how to make the function better and what tools and technology we need at various stages of team development. She also shares some really fun stuff around how to know if you have too much tech or too little tech and what to do in each of those cases. Specifically, how to untangle that Franken-stack of technology that you may have if you have too many tech tools. This is a great conversation, a helpful conversation, a Techtember conversation. Check this one out, featuring Lisa-Oahn.
No matter where your business is today or where you want to take it, you'll get there faster and more profitably with an operating system. Welcome to TeamOS, your guide to starting, growing, and optimizing a real estate team. Here's your host, Ethan Butte.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to have you in particular as part of this Techtember series because you have such a depth of passion and expertise in this zone. So I'm just really excited to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. I always watch TeamOS on my drive or whenever I have free time. So super excited to be here to help share and just partake in it.
I always love having a viewer or a listener on the show as a guest. So I appreciate you investing your time and I'm glad it's useful to you. So you probably know this question is coming then, which is, what is a must-have characteristic of a high-performing team?
I think definitely flexibility. In our industry, things changes all the time. So there's not one set standard way of doing things. It never goes how you expect it to. So being flexible, not getting your emotions involved and just knowing that, hey, it's going to work out at the end of the day.
Talk a little bit about that tension. I mean, obviously, one of the things that's required to build an efficient and successful business, and certainly one that has the ability to be scaled, is some of that standardization and standard operating procedures. Standards are what allow us to be efficient and scale, but they also, in certain instances, we may need to violate them or it's okay to deviate. Like, that seems like a tension to me.
It is. So just a person who writes a lot of operations, SOPs, things like that, there are things that by the book that we should be doing in an ideal unicorn perfect transaction, right? And then we have this other really long SOP of when things go south, right? And so when we deviate from that path, what are the scenarios? So if you ever do like conditional logic, if you ever build things and make what that has like a route and a workflow, hey, it could go one of two ways. If this, then that. If this, then that. So building that into our SOPs has been like the hardest because you've got to think of every fire, every wall, and then train somebody what to do to respond to that, right? Like you don't really know what to do in a fire until you're in a fire, right? I don't have a fire extinguisher. I didn't know that there was an expiration date on it, right? So those are just things I think people don't really know. But every single time we have a use case and instance, something happens, we document it, having team meetings and talking about this happened to us at one time, or this happened to us yesterday. How do we prevent that from happening in the future? And then work your way backwards from there.
Really well done. I also like that you introduce this idea that there's sometimes a gap between the theoretical and the real or the experienced. And, we can teach people in theory, but it's not until they actually face the thing that they really understand, oh, yeah, I'm really glad I have some preparation for this. And hopefully it's not the kitchen or the house on fire. Okay, so you've been on a mega team, like one of the top teams in Texas. You've been a solo agent. You've been an operations leader. You've helped agents and teams of all kinds with their tech stacks. I would love for you to do two things. A, stitch these together into a timeline and story. Give us a little bit of your background, over the past, I think, dozen plus years in real estate. And then kind of as a subtopic there, how many of those things are you actually doing today? Because you strike me as a very dynamic person who's involved in a number of things.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. So yeah, my real estate journey has been about 13 years. I transitioned from hospitality, hotel management. That kind of naturally guided me into real estate. But a really good friend of mine, Alex Resende in Houston, he brought me into the real estate world, said, hey, I'm drowning. I need an admin. And he knew my spiritual gift was administration. And so he had solicited me for many years. I had turned him down. When I had an opportunity, I said, I'm ready to get into real estate. Knew nothing about it, became a real estate office assistant and just kind of had him guide me through the whole process and was building operations along the way because I was learning the process. And so I was their right-hand person for many, many years, became an office manager, got my license a year afterwards just because I read, write, speak Vietnamese and they needed a Vietnamese person to do real estate transactions for the team. And so kind of was doing transactions just on my own with some, of my sphere. I never did lead gen. I still don't do lead gen till today, or all of mine are word of mouth referral. So that's how I got in production as well as like managing an office and a team. And so I found Follow Boss along the way, very early on. I think it was 2015. One of my agents had brought it to us and said, hey, I really like the CRM. It's really helped me keep organized and we think we can use it for the team. So we did use it for a while. We felt like agents weren't using it as the best of their ability. So then we took it away for about 6 months. And then we had agents screaming and crying saying, we want Follow Up Boss back. So that was the only time in my life I left Follow Up Boss for a short 6-month period, came back and never looked back since then. But going along the journey, I went from the mega team after 10 years being with them to working with smaller teams throughout the Texas market, migrated to Denver after I got married about 3 years ago, had a couple babies in between. And so I was just in between real estate and trying to figure out what to do. One day, Elena just messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, we think you know some things about deals. Would you like to do a Bosses in Action webinar? So I did about 3 years ago and kind of launched me into this real estate tech space where I became like a approved consultant. And so that's kind of what I do now. I consult agents about their tech stack, what to use specifically for Follow Boss, specifically about for transaction management, because that's where my heartbeat is. And then, so I, as of today, I am a transaction coordinator for 4 to 5 different states with Hoozy. They are AI prop tech company coming up. And they use, a lot of different tools. Follow Up Boss is one of them, as well as like open and close, a couple of tools that we use. And I do that on a daily. I do my consulting with Follow Up Boss still on, a side project kind of thing. And I'm also coaching operations for a couple of teams as well.
Awesome. And you're a mom.
Yes, I am a mom.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's fantastic. I mean, obviously you had a bias toward or a default toward or an appreciation or leaning toward operations, transaction coordination, deals. When and how did that bleed and blend into tech? What I want to kind of like start moving the conversation into a little bit is what role did tech play in this shift for you and in general for, the agent and team community?
Yeah, it was almost from day one, just being in administration. And that was kind of like office management was my thing. I needed to always stay organized, even my personal life. So from early on adopting Google Sheets and moving that from like paper files in real estate to just, digital online Google Drive, we've always used that, from the beginning. And so just transitioning a lot of agents over to that, like, hey, what if there is a fire, right? And you lose all your files, right? Or you're halfway across, the city and you got to get to one of your files and it's sitting on your desk, right? So having that collaboration real time, I update something, my agent see it, my broker, my rainmaker sees it. Having that collaboration tool, Google Drive and Dropbox has really brought like collaboration to that space. And it kind of just keeps building from there, right? That's how I knew Follow Boss was really like the best for us because anytime I could update anything in there, emails would be real time coming over. I don't have to say, hey, Ethan, can you pull on the side of the road and forward me that email? Because I don't have access to it or I'm locked out, right? Having that real time collaboration was just really, really crucial. So that turned operations into, hey, I need at any time, at any point at 2 a.m, my agent needs something. How do I get them the quickest access? And using tech into real estate just makes the whole process faster.
So when you're talking with an agent or a team about their tech stack, what kind of questions are you asking? What are you looking for? What kind of maybe move into common problems that you see here too? But like, when you're sizing up what's going on, like someone engages you, they have a question. I assume that you probably look at the thing as a whole, not just like, you get a question about this one thing, but you obviously have been involved enough to know that it's probably not just this one thing. It's involved bigger. For someone who's like, is my tech in a good place right now? How do you kind of size that up, scope it? Kind of what questions are you asking? What level I assume you start high, but like, what are you looking for when you're looking to say, do these people have the right stuff set up about the right way to do what they want to do?
Yeah. So usually I start off with my consultation calls like, tell me how long you've been a Follow Boss user and tell me what your pain points are. Those are usually the very basic questions I start off with. First of all, how long they've been using it tells me like how much they may or may not know about Follow Boss, what features are available, right? If they're a long-term user, maybe they haven't fully utilized Follow Boss. And that's what I hear a lot is like, I've had it, but I don't think I'm using it to my fullest capacity, right? Somebody brand new may not know all the features like custom fields, automations, things like that. So having that second question of what is your pain point? What would you like me to solve today? And you're right. It's almost like a Band-Aid kind of peeling back the onion. Like, what is it that's really deeply rooted into your operations? And that's where we usually end up is like, I'm talking about within 15, 20 minutes, what your full operations is, what your setup of your team, what your makeup, where your DNA is. Is it you by your solo agent wearing all the hats? Are you bringing on a virtual assistant pretty soon? Or do you have 20 virtual assistants and a 100-person team and you're just trying to get better organized and maybe like look at costs, right? Budget for your tech stack. Do I really need everything? I usually have one or the other. Either somebody doesn't use tech enough or somebody uses tech too much that has way too much and maybe needs some trimming done. So really look at how everything's organized. I usually like to do a blueprint for them. So I will take their Follow Boss. Usually if they hire my services, they get a Google Sheet. I organize what stages they use, what deal stages they use, what email templates. And at any time when you're trying to reorganize and restructure your Follow Boss, you'll have that to be able to get back to and take a look at that. But yeah, usually those two are the main things that will get me under the hood of somebody's operations.
Cool. I would love for you to give advice to those two people. First of all, describe them so people can say, oh, yeah, that is me. I thought that might be me, but it is me. I would love for you to talk to, in either order you prefer, the person with too little tech. What are some of the characteristics? What are some of what are they suffering? What are they experiencing because they have too little tech? And maybe what steps can they take moving forward? And then on the other side, people who have too much tech, how did they get there and what benefit, what's their process for kind of pruning and thinning? So take those in either order you prefer, but I'd love for you to kind of give some, diagnose this person or allow them to self-diagnose and then maybe give them some advice to start moving in the right direction.
Yeah. So for the person with the low tech, right? Because that's usually most of our friends and family, specifically in my world. But they're just like, I can't remember, if I have an appointment, on Thursday or, oh man, I missed this meeting that was really important and I had written it down. Those are usually the commonalities that I see that they are just losing track of things. It's all in their head and they probably have an incredible brain, but at some point you've got to lose something to gain something to put that input in. So not having to remember where you put that or not relying on one person to have that one source of truth, you'll need to be able to delegate that to other people. So if you imagine if I were to take Ethan out and you're gone for 3 months, you went on vacation, right? And I got to take over your business and run exactly the way you want it operated, or even at 60% for operations, right? I need to be able to pick your brain and say, this is how Ethan would do it, right? Or, hey, these are the notes that Ethan had from the listing appointment or from that conversation he had. So one, the dialer, the recording, everything inside Follow Boss, all the features that are automatically there that come in day one from your account is automatically going to be so much more helpful, right? I no longer have to pull to the side of the road. I don't have to take notes. I just have to remember, hey, I set aside 7 to 8 p.m. I'm going to go through my Follow Boss, listen back at all my phone calls. And then now with the AI call summaries, they'll be able to do so, right? And pull out those summaries and say, hey, these are my next tasks based off of this phone call. right? So that alone would just help with just those who are low tech that don't have anything. Use the feature inside Follow Boss. It's there for you. I pay for the dialer myself as an add-on. So if you're lucky enough to have one of those included plans that have it, utilize it. I cannot stress that enough. So I no longer use my cell phone number. I don't give it to anyone except for my family. Sometimes my family doesn't even get my personal number. They get my Follow Boss number. So I would ingrain to people, use your dialer number, use the emails, connect it all to Follow Boss. Flip side, someone who has too much tech, probably I'm more on that side of things just because I research so much. It may be convoluted. It may be too complex, right? And nothing connects and syncs together. So I've become more like an automations expert where I use Zapier or I use make.com or even like webhooks now. I've really dove deep into the Follow Boss API documentation. If you don't want to know what it is, find somebody who does and talk to somebody about API documentation. But definitely like just connecting things very easily, like, hey, I have a new email that came in, and I want that to go to my Google Sheets because that's where I'm tracking all of my incoming email, right? You can very easily connect those two together. But sometimes we have Google Sheets, we have Excel, we have a Smart Suite, we have Airtable, we have 10 different places that we're storing things, but nothing's connecting together. We don't know why we have that information. We don't know what we're going to do with that information, and we don't know who's checking up on that information. Is it valid? Is it invalid, right? Did somebody put in a test dummy account in my Follow Boss and now my data is skewed, right? So having too much tech is one, a problem because you don't know where all your workflow is and you can't expect somebody else to come in behind you and understand all of that tech stack and how it works. Two, probably the biggest thing is financial. Like if you take a look at your credit card bill or your debit card bill, you can take a look at your bank account and just see, wow, how much am I really paying for these things that I'm actually not using on a day to day? That's usually where my first conversation starts with people who have too much tech. Like I'm spending too much and I don't know if it's really useful or not.
Okay, so I know that there's someone who's like, oh yeah, I did that a couple of months ago. I didn't actually make any decisions on it, but there were a couple $9.99s. There was a $17.99. There were a bunch of $49.99s. There was a $79.99. There's a $129.99. For that person, so, they obviously are running a business. They're obviously doing well enough or have aspirations to do better such that they're investing in the business. Some of that investment is going into new tools and technologies. We've all agreed now, and I'm sure this person who's watching or listening is like, yeah, that is me. Understands that they have a situation that they need to improve, but this is also one of those flying the plane while we're trying to fix it or driving the car while we're trying to fix the engine situations. They're actually running a business that's healthy enough or has strong enough aspirations to be investing in it. How do we get into this, let's just say, to characterize it very negatively, like monstrosity that we've built? How do we start figuring out what to pull out and what to leave in while we're still trying to operate this business that's built on this tech stack? Like, how do we do that?
Yeah, I would start by listing out. I usually start just with Google Sheets, like all the tech stack that they have, right? Regardless of how much they're spending and things like that. And I'm usually asking, what are we using this for? And if they can't respond what it's for and what the purpose is, it's probably the first thing to go. Right? Because I'm very guilty of this. I am on AppSumo. My husband probably shouldn't look at my credit card bill and how much I spend on that. But I'm always trying the newest things. Like I have Calendly and I have TidyCal. Do I really need both? Or can I look for a low code, no code free solution? Right? So if a lot of people don't know, you can use Google appointment slots, right? To build out one-on-one, appointments and, doesn't have full complexity like some of these, Calendly apps and stuff, but you can totally make that switch. And so having someone that can come in as a consultant or take a look at it. I know me, Elena, quite a few of my other mastermind friends out there, they do free systems analysis, tech stack analysis, and we'll just go through and like, hey, like, do you really need this? Yes or no? And then here's an alternative that you could possibly use that you don't have to pay for. And then when you feel like, oh, I've hit my limit, I need more settings, more advanced features, then go into a paid account. But I usually start with a free 7-day trial. If it doesn't entice me enough to like put in my credit card to want to keep it, then I won't move forward with a paid plan. So I'm still on a free Slack plan. I'm still using Gmail on my personal things. I've never had to really upgrade. So just learning how to use those tools in a good way. But also like the biggest thing is probably data like management. So for instance, if you have a free Gmail, I'm sure most real estate agents have, because I've seen all the Facebook messages about when we had to switch over to Google Workspace or Outlook. But if you're on a free Gmail account, you only have X amount of storage in your Google Drive or X amount of emails that you're able to put into your Gmail. Once you hit that limit, you stop getting emails and you stop being able to add, more documents. Very similar to like Apple and their storage unit, right? So then you got to upgrade. If you just did a little bit of management and cleanup, hire a virtual assistant, hire Fiverr, hire your kid for the summer, right? Go through and clean up things that you don't really need. Maybe files are like 10 years old and you're still keeping inspection reports and listing photos from 10 years ago that maybe is just eating up a lot of that space. So looking at cleaning up most of that, even just same thing with Follow Boss, your CRM, make sure those are cleaned out at least once a month, or at the most, probably every 3 months.
You mentioned off the top of that response a term, low code, no code. I would love for you to kind of like peel into a few things you've mentioned so far. So for folks watching and listening, what I want to do is kind of at least lower the mental barrier and make this seem more approachable. You may not have the disposition of Lisa. You may not have the background of Lisa. You may not have the passion, and you probably don't have the expertise of Lisa yet. But I think some of this stuff is more approachable than it seems. To be clear, you have no background as a software developer, true?
True.
Okay. So low code, no code solutions, APIs, give that a little bit of definition. Zapier and Make are essentially rules engines where you can connect two different things. If it doesn't integrate directly into Follow Up Boss or whatever CRM you're using, you can use Zapier as kind of like a middleware between two other pieces of software to create automations. I would love for you to just kind of like lower the barrier in whatever way you've done for other people before. Like, no, you can do this. Like, this is more approachable than you think. You don't need to be a software developer to make the software that we have available more powerful and make it work together and to make it unified and all of that. Now, you may wind up hiring someone to help you do this stuff, obviously. But make it approachable for people who are like at the cusp. Like, they're basically technically savvy. They're just unfamiliar. They're just like, honestly, in the purest sense, ignorant of what's on the other side of this doorway. They may not even know the door exists.
Start with the Follow Boss automations that are already built in. That is technically a low code, no code, right? If you understand like, hey, if the stage changes, I can trigger this to happen. So it's what we call in the conditional logic world, if then that scenario, right? And so that's a fantastic way. That's how I kind of started building my Follow Boss when automations came out. And I'm like, this is amazing. What can I do? When I add a tag, this happens, right? So very similar to low code, no code. There's a lot of tools out there, and there's a whole whole world that's called low code, no code for what we call citizen developers. You'll hear that term probably in Google or Apple development. Those are people who are using tech tools, right? And they don't know how to code. They're not the developer. They don't know Python. They don't know JSON. They don't know a lot of these coding. But if I use some kind of tool like a software, Retool, I'd probably say is also really popular for those who are low code, no code. And Barra Agency actually introduced me to Retool, but Zapier is probably the most popular. I'd probably start there. There is an AI bot in there that you can literally just speak out what you want. Like, hey, I want to connect my Follow Boss leads to my Google Sheet. Every time a new lead comes in, I want it to be added as a new row to Google Sheets. You can literally just talk it out with the microphone or type it out, and it'll automatically build what that Zapier flow would look like. So it would say, new deal, added to Follow Boss, then trigger to add it to Google Sheets as a new row. And then you could also do something extra like when a new Google Sheet row is added, then zap that over to Slack and mention this channel, right? So very simple flows. It doesn't have to be complex. And as you start building, that's probably the best way I learn is I just have to sit down, watch a couple of YouTube videos on how to use Zapier, how to use Make. And then that way I go and I'm just building certain things like, how can I take this thing that I'm putting in 2-3 times in different technology stacks, right? Tech stacks. And how do I put those softwares together using Zapier? Does Zapier have something for me? Great. It doesn't. Let me try and Make. Is there something over there I could build over there? The other popular one is API Nation. So between those three, one of those solutions should probably work. If it's not there, then I would go and talk to my developer cousin or friends that would just say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Do you think you have time to build it for me without charging me an arm and a leg? So yeah, I have gotten to know a little bit of code, but I don't like it. That's not what I want to do on a day to day. So usually somebody out smarter than me will help. But the follow-up community is fantastic for that. We have a lot of really smart people who do low code, no code, or even develop their own code to make it work. And so anytime, put it out there, search the forum. If somebody hasn't responded, put it out there. Somebody will respond to you.
So good. Okay, I've got a couple like housekeeping items that you've created for me. First, you've mentioned Elena. That's Elena Key. She was our guest on episode 34. You mentioned Barra Agency. Justin Benson, founder and CEO, is part of this Techtember series, so be sure to check that episode out as well. You mentioned the Follow Up Boss Success Community, which you are a moderator of. Thank you so much for your commitment to do that. If you are using Follow Up Boss and you're not in that community and you're provoked by some of these episodes in particular, fantastic resource, but it's just great to be a part of anyway. If you haven't joined it, you should. They're like, which is kind of borderline shocking. There are over 100,000 Follow Up Boss users. And I think this is not a small number, but only 20 some thousand of them are in that group. So like that's, 1 in 5. So I love what you broke down here. I would like to speak now to that person who's like, I'm just not feeling any of this. There are a couple of solutions. One, you've already mentioned it. There are people available who are ready, willing, and able to do a discovery diagnosis prescription with you and actually execute the solution. You are one of those people. You could also, in theory, I would love just your take on this because you've been in organizations of all sizes. One of the things you said, like wearing all the hats, and I think this is true of transaction coordination, managing or building a tech stack, doing your own bookkeeping, et cetera. Like as soon as I started understanding the real estate business much deeper than I ever did about a dozen years ago, that was one of the greatest sensitivities I had toward a solo agent is how much they have to do and how much they have to be responsible for. Even if you're not doing some of this work, you're still like the general contractor on all of these different projects and all of these different zones. And you may not even speak that person's language, so to speak. Like, are you getting snowed in this deal? You have no idea because you don't even know what questions to ask. You don't understand half the words they're using. Obviously this is Real Estate Team OS. I think one of many reasons a solo agent might join a team is so that they don't even have to think about what's my tech stack? How does it work? Do I have these things set up correctly? When someone joins a team that's operating really well, a lot of this is taken care of. Thoughts on that observation?
Exactly true. Exactly what you're talking about. And that's why I went to join a TC team instead of doing it on my own. I did have my own TC business and it's a lot, right? You're lonely. You have no one to complain to. It's just you. And if you fail, it's all on you, right? So having someone as a backup, someone just to pawn ideas off of and just to be in the back corner, being your cheerleader. That's what I'm on a team in Denver and I'm on the team, but I don't take leads from them, but I'm part of what they call community. So it's fantastic. Like I pick and choose what I want for my makeup of what I need at exactly where I am. Almost like how we piece together like Follow Boss and what I need on today's operations, right? So same thing with the team structure over there. And it's been fantastic, right? Being on a team allows you flexibility to like say, I want an office, but I only want to go whenever I need to, right? I don't want to go every first of the month for every team meeting. I'm still keeping up with what's going on with my community, but I travel a lot. I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm doing multiple businesses. I'm a mom, so I can't always make it to the office on Wednesdays when we have team meetings, right? But staying connected and true to someone who's relevant, up to date, top team in the state, it's been fantastic for me to ride along with that journey. me and pick what I need at the time that I need it the most. So definitely having a team with their own tech stack that already has a blueprint, that's already carrying those financials. And I think we talked about this before as well, like those splits, sometimes you think it's really high for a team, but you also have to remember like most team like leaders and rainmakers, they're not really profiting a lot of the agent, right? If you're an agent that's doing a couple of deals a year, you definitely are not profiting from that agent. It's a lot of time, a lot of resource. You're taking up a seat in the Follow Boss tech stack and other tools that they're providing. And so having someone grow alongside with you is, it's plus or minus, right? You don't know which way that agent's going to go, but definitely I think teams are fantastic. You're going to probably see more teams develop over time because it is hard being by yourself, doing everything by yourself and not having that expertise, that counsel that maybe a broker, team leader, owner would provide for you.
Yeah, really good call out there. And I especially appreciate the call to splits. I mean, they're the two main objections I hear over and over again. One of them is like, freedom/ego/disposition, someone that just doesn't play that well with others, or they really prefer doing it their own way, or they just don't like following the protocols that someone else has set up. That's one reason someone would struggle to be on a team. I know we're outside the bounds of tech right now. And then the other category being splits. They're like, oh, that just looks really, really expensive. But I think a lot of people haven't given thought to what you described there, which is like it's the cost benefit. It's like it's not just a higher split. It's a higher split because you're getting a lot more for it. And that means you have to think about less, execute less, figure out less, and you can focus on what you do best. I feel like an agent in a team that's operating really well is basically paying for the opportunity to spend a heck of a lot more time doing what a sales agent does best, which is connect with people, have meaningful conversations, and create contracts and closings.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Transaction coordination. This is a big part of your story. I think you probably have a greater depth of understanding and expertise than a lot of folks. What is really good transaction coordination characterized by? And give a couple tips for, let's just say, an agent or a team leader wondering, is this going as well as it could, should, would? You know, like, I mean, obviously if things are falling apart or they're very inefficient or, you know, clients don't love the experience, these things are obviously problematic. But like, how do you characterize really good transaction coordination? And then let's kind of move into a couple key pieces, whether it's tech or process or culture or roles or positions that can help really improve a TC function.
Yeah, characterizations of its good TC, definitely detailed, very organized. If you're looking on the DISC profile, they're usually like a C or sometimes an S, but definitely a C or even like a D. And so those are what you're looking for. But basically somebody who can take the task, execute it really well without probably asking a lot of questions, right? It's just a really long task list. They've got 100 of them in there and they can just plow through them, right? And they will revert back to the agent if needed, right? So a really good TC, some of them may be licensed, some of them may not be licensed. And depending on what state, what market, you can take a look at that. But those who are licensed, like I'm licensed in 2 states, that's only just because I have done some of my own production. I've been through that process in the trenches with the agent. I've had files canceled. I've had files come back from the dead. What do you do from that point, right? And so I had to really organize myself. And that's how I found my love of being a TC is like, I knew those were the things, but I loved more of the paperwork, checking off the task, making sure everyone's on track. Communications are being sent out at the right time to the right people. How do I handle clients who are just freaking out a week before closing and want to like pull out, right? Like, how do you manage those things? So having that really close relationship with the agent, with the rainmaker, with the brokerage, with the compliance team, like everyone involved, right? Even title companies and lenders, like you have to play nice with them. It's a relationship business, right? So having a TC that's resourceful, that has, even if somebody hasn't been in, you know, the TC business for a long period of time, but maybe they've been an agent and they know how real estate works, or they grew up around it, right? Because their parents were in real estate, right? Like just being able to follow up on things and tracking those responses like, hey, title commitment came in yesterday. Did somebody read through Schedule C? right? Does my agent even know what a Schedule C is, right? Walking them through that and explaining and having the patience of saying, this is what you're looking for. This is what a title commitment is. I will give you my 2-second version of it. And then if you want more details, let me connect you with our title company who's preferred, and they will have a whole class for you on it, right? So I will usually push them towards CE training, but I will have the short condensed sweet version for them if they don't know. So I tend to be the source of truth for a lot of these documents. Like, what is this? What is a lien? What is why do we need a power of attorney? What is an estate sale, right? A TC really goes through a lot of those processes along with an agent, and they can say, hey, this happens to my agent without giving too much detail. And then transitioning over to kind of help the agent, this is who you should talk to, probably your broker, or next would probably be a real estate attorney, or next the title company, or go back to the lender. So just having that consultant right-hand person that says, I'm there to support you. I've got your back. Let's get through this file together, right? No matter how hard it is. So sometimes we're up 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, just like the agent, writing offers and, working the file just like you are. So having a good TC, work-life balance is a real thing. So don't work your TCs to death. But usually they're right there in the trenches with you. So having a good TC that understands documents, understands contractual law and things like that, keeping up to date with the changes, especially with the NAR settlement coming up. What are those things that are going to happen in our market, right? And then pushing that out to our agents so our agents know that the changes are coming. That's probably coming from your broker, but that should also probably come from your TC.
Really good. I love this idea of reinforcing important things through the TC function, not just, top down, but permeating the organization. I love that detail you added there at the end. From a software perspective, from a tools and solutions perspective, I know some people have built very robust TC solutions directly inside Follow Up Boss. I also know that there are a lot of directly integrated, or kind of like Zapier integrated solutions. Give folks just kind of a lay of the land of what some of the software support solutions are. I mean, by the way, it just means software to support your TC function. Give a snapshot of what does that scene look like in general? What are some of the tools that people might consider if they're looking to improve the function?
Yeah, so a TC role is usually very task-based, very heavy on checklists, right? Things to do, things to check off. So most people usually start with old school style, just paper and pen, right? They'll write down all their tasks that they need to do. If it's a buyer, this is what I do when I have a new contract. This is a seller. This is what happens when I have a new listing, right? Some people will automatically migrate that over to probably Google Sheets, right? Because again, it's online, it's collaborative. Anyone can check off check boxes, make little notes, and so you can start there. Free, no, very low barrier into that. And then some people will probably upgrade to a project management tool, probably like Trello or something, right? Especially if you're a visual person, you can definitely see just like our deals board inside of Follow Up Boss, which is why I like that Kanban style. You can see exactly where you are with each pipeline and go through there. At some point, you will outgrow that, right? When you're managing probably 15, 20 files a month, that system will outgrow you, right? Because now I have to check 20 different Google Sheets every single day. Oh, this one update happened. I forgot to go back to that Google Sheet. Or heaven forbid, somebody accidentally deletes my Google Sheet, and then I got to recreate it. That has happened. So just things like that. But yeah, other tools when you get more involved and deeply into it. I started using Follow Up Boss. I saw that there were just some really great features that I could utilize to my own advantage. So I gimmied it. I started using custom fields, building out every single data point I needed in my contracts, just storing it there. That allows me and my agent to visibly see every data point at any point without them having to call me at 9 o'clock at night. And then also emails, I could see everything there. Text messages between clients, we could see visibly there. But also on my right-hand side, they can see all my tasks that I built that are still outstanding. Or if I'm on hold, I put a note there that says, hey, I'm waiting for the appraisal. We've got an issue with the value, right? And I tag the agent so they know to respond to it. So just that collaboration tool, again, without having to pay for an outside system, that was fantastic. Again, once you've gotten to about 20 to 30 files, you're looking at about 1,000 tasks a day, you probably have outgrown that system. So things that I use now, I still use Follow Boss on one of my markets in Texas. Open to close is what I've migrated to. It's very robust with automations. I can associate a task with an email to be triggered to be going out. Automatically attaches also my files. And then also it will have what we call smart block, which is great. If there's a cash deal, remove the lender, remove the appraisal information, same email, but that template goes out. So just having that in my repertoire has been fantastic. Lots of other transaction management tools out there. You could build your own with an Airtable, which some of my friends have done. I've also kind of built a TC system in there as well. There's also Brivity. There's TC Docs. There's just so much out there for transaction management. Just Google the software and you'll be able to find a bunch. But my heartbeat has always been, if I can not get it to connect Follow Boss, I'm probably not using it.
Again, Follow Boss Success Community, great place to learn from the other people, what they're using, why, and how they like it. In general, I don't love the idea of a tool-based or a category-based question like wide open, teed up. But again, that Follow Boss Success Community is pretty well curated, and everyone has that same sensitivity you do, Lisa, which is, does it work seamlessly with my CRM? So if you're a Follow Boss user, there you go. That was great. I appreciate that pass there. I would love for you to go really high level. The real estate team model, how has it changed in the 13 plus years you've been in the business? You've already mentioned a little bit about where you think it's going, but I'd love for you to kind of like double down on that, like high level, past, present, future of teams from your perspective, 13 years into the business.
Yeah, starting out, brokerages were really big. Everybody wanted to be a big brand brokerage. And it was a physical office that we had to go to. And we had, stand-ups every day and, monthly meetings, you had to be there, X amount of training and everything. You've seen a lot of that grow into like the cloud-based real estate offices, right? Where you can be anywhere in the world, right? And hang your hat there and still have support, still have like a team that you could build underneath or sponsor and things like that. What I'm seeing now more is like the teamerage model. And we talk about that a lot on the TeamOS channel. And I think that's kind of the future, right? Like I'm a solo agent. I tried that for a little bit. I want to be like associated with the team, but not fully engaged. Like I have to be like handheld by a brokerage and have like a set amount of days or rules and things I have to follow. Right. So I kind of want to have my freedom, but as well belong to something that allows me support whenever I need it at the time that I need it. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of teams offering that kind of support. I'm here when you need me. I'm non-existent if you don't, right? And so that's a great way to, I guess, mold the real estate industry. I think people do really need to stay connected with whoever their broker supervisor is, like on file, know about the changes that are happening in our industry, but don't disassociate yourself just because you want to save a few bucks, right? Boutique brokerages are fantastic for those who know how to run operations, right? And so it doesn't really matter, I think, what brand you put on your business card, but who you associate yourself with, who's giving you that support, who are you learning from on a daily basis is probably more important. And I think teams are really offering a place that you can call home anytime that you need to.
So well said. I love that take so much. I'll point, especially for that kind of agent you described there, I'll point people to episode 30 with Jordana Tobel and to the Inside the Lawton Team series. Again, for that new agent or that agent that's been in the business for 2 or 3 years, but never got their feet under them because they didn't necessarily have the support or training or culture or accountability that they needed to kind of transition into the industry well. We've talked with a lot of team leaders who are great at shaping and molding and coaching and training those people up. But for that kind of that more mature agent who may or may not need a team, who looks at the split and they get kind of like, well, I don't know why I would do that. That kind of culture, camaraderie, the ability to plug in and align whenever you want. But do your own thing when you want and how you want, whenever you want. But be associated with people that want to do business the same way you do, that reflect your values, that you feel proud to be a part of. A lot of teams are designing splits and fees and services in a way that accommodates that person in particular. It's not all, I mean, people are like 50-50. Like, no, if you're a high producing agent who just wants some of what Lisa just described, there are teams that have designed financial arrangements that make it mutually beneficial to grow together rather than have you continue to spin your wheels and, struggle with things you don't necessarily have to struggle with out on your own. Anyway, love that. That was a really good go, Lisa. Any closing thoughts or ideas for people, like from a tech perspective? Is there a question you wish you never had to be asked again? Like if everyone just knew or understood this, the world would be better. Or is there something that you're looking forward to in the future that you're super psyched about? Like, give us kind of a parting word on this Techtember series episode of Real Estate Team OS.
Yeah, I'd probably say don't be afraid of technology. I think AI, whenever people hear it, they either love it or they hate it, right? And I hear a lot of agents like, this is going to try to replace us as human beings. We're going to become like, the world's just going to take over with AI. And that's not true. I think technology is there to help support us if used in the right way. And we need to evolve. Real estate has changed over, decades, even before I even started in the business. And so those who can adopt, those who can use it, just even like scratching the surface of it, it can do so much to save us a lot of time. So I'd say if you don't know, if you don't understand it, even if you're completely against it, just get in a room with somebody who has a opposing thought, right? Like that loves AI, that can't stop talking about it, can't wait for the future of it. And I think that's where I learn best, is from people who don't have the same opinions as me. And we can have a discussion without throwing each other under the bus, right? So I think the community is fantastic for that. Some people love this, some people love that. But at the end of the day, how you run your operations, at least I have the information in front of me to make a sound, educated, decision on how I want to run my operations.
That was very specific as a use case, but generally speaking, I would observe that your advice there is just basic good life advice. Seek people with other opinions and be open to understanding and learning from them. And then we'll all find our own way. Like there's no one right way to do anything that we talked about in this episode or ever in any of the dozens of episodes we've released on the show. Are you more excited about the idea of AI being built into all of the tools that we're already using? Or are you more excited about AI is kind of a standalone thing and kind of custom GPTs and some of the, we can do our own stuff with this. Because and this is just kind of barrier lowering for other people too. They're like, AI, I don't know what to do with AI. I mean, I maybe tried to have a property description written with ChatGPT. It's obviously so much more than that. I think one easy thing to observe for people is this is coming into the tools that you're already using. But you personally, are you more excited about a lot more of your tools being a lot more artificially intelligent, or are you excited about some of the tools that are being built more natively, or separately, I should say, as AI solutions that you can craft?
Yeah, I'm more on AI being built from the ground up. Right. I think we already see AI in a lot of things. Like Google Workspace does a very fantastic way. If you go into Google Sheets, it will just say, hey, do you want to use this template? Right. Or are you trying to do this with that data? And just giving those prompts already. So if you haven't noticed, it's there. Right. Siri can automatically do that. Google can do that. And as it's listening, it turned on for me. So but, AI is already built in our day-to-day life. What I'd love to see is industry specific things that AI are built for a purpose. It's just like human beings. We need a purpose. And I think having something that's definitely curated using AI as the background, as a platform, and, even Follow Boss, like it was created for real estate agents, right? And you're building AI summaries and things into it because it's a specific use case that we have it for, instead of making it too general. So I'd love to see more AI specific things like AI for restaurants, AI for nail salons. Like, that would be fantastic because one solution is not a fit all for everybody. And so I'm seeing a lot of specific things that, hey, this is the one thing that we do, which is why I've always loved Follow Boss. They do one thing, and that's contact relationship management. I'd love to see that one thing for AI more developed over time.
Really good call. I'm glad I asked. Okay. 3 pairs of closing questions. You only need to answer one or the other. The first one is, what is your very favorite team to root for? Or what is the best team you've ever been a member of?
Greatest team I've ever rooted for, Houston Astros. I was born and raised there. We won a couple of World Series. It's been fantastic to watch their journey. So yeah, anytime there's a Astros game, I am there and watching it.
Awesome. Love it. What is one of your most frivolous purchases, or what is a cheapskate habit you hold on to, even though you probably don't need to?
Probably frivolous purchase. Oh my goodness, probably like my MacBook Pro. I decked it out to the max. I probably shouldn't have. It's really meant for, creators, editors, photographers, but so many processing and things that I needed to have done. I'm like, I need the best of the best. So I splurged.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many drop downs. You're like, yeah, it's funny. But I will say it's interesting, like just because this is a Techtember episode, back in the day when I first started buying computers for myself, you could buy them, but you could like upgrade the RAM really easily yourself. Like these MacBooks are designed for you not to touch them at all. So like you might as well pay for it when you get it out of the box.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Last one. What does it look like for you, Lisa, when you're investing time in learning, growing, and developing? Or what does it look like? What are you doing when you're investing time in resting, relaxing, and recharging?
I definitely am more the first part. So when I'm learning and growing, it's really hard for me to shut off my brain, but I'm usually on YouTube a lot. I digest a lot of content. Just what are the new productivity tools? What can I usually do? So that's just my heartbeat. So when I take a YouTube video, I will go alongside with it, pull up that tool. I will sign up for a free account and I would just go in there and just play with it. What can I do to break it? Right? What can I do that someone hasn't thought of yet? So just researching and getting into tech tools to see if it works. And maybe somewhere down the road, 5-10 years, somebody's like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. I'm like, hey, I got a solution. I tried this out the other day. Why don't you give it a try? And then walking that person through that experience and how they can use it on their business or personal level has been the most rewarding thing. It's like watching a child grow and learn tech tools and then go out on their own and build their own.
Awesome. That's by the way, that's a great closing tech tip. If you're looking to figure out how to do something or if something is possible, yes, you could start with ChatGPT, or yes, you could start with any of the other kind of AI interfaces, or you could start with a Google search. But if you want to see how it's done and work alongside someone who's probably a pro at doing it, do that search in YouTube instead. Great tip. Appreciate it. Lisa, you are a wealth of knowledge and you're a joy to spend time with. If someone wants to follow up on this conversation, learn more about you or the work that you're doing, where's a couple places you might send people?
Yeah, best place is lisalovespub.com and simplyclose.com is my other website. But basically just find me on those two. I'm usually always in the Facebook Follow Boss community as well. So find me there as well. Awesome.
Say that first link again.
Lisa loves Fub. F-U-B.
Awesome.
.com.
Cool. That stuff is linked up right down below, whether you're watching in YouTube, listening in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you're watching or listening at realestateteamos.com. We always do write-ups with detail, things you can learn, and we also link up. I personally go fish out links to a variety of things, not just the ones that you tell me, but those are always down there too. So hope people enjoyed this. I hope you go down and click some of those links. Lisa, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Ethan.
Thanks for checking out this episode of TeamOS. For email exclusive insights every week, sign up at realestateteamos.com.